Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wait just a few more minutes to let everybody come into this webinar, and we'll start in about 2 minutes. While we wait, go ahead and say hello to us in the chat. Let us know what you're studying so we can get to know you a little bit better. We're going to give about 1 more minute and then we'll start. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, part 6 of our online success series, Empower Yourself, Get to Know Your FIU Ombuds. My name is Janessa Guzman. I'm one of your success coaches here at FIU Online, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Ellie and Amaya, who are your online student ambassadors, as well as Dr. Sophia Trellis, which will be speaking to you later on in this webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. This webinar will be recorded and be sent to you within about 72 hours. So feel free to take notes or just sit back and relax because you'll get this information shortly to your FIU email address. We also have a Q&A feature, which is separate from chat. We have an amazing team working behind the scenes to answer any questions you may have. So feel free to ask away. We just ask not to put any personal information since everybody can see it. So if you do have any personal questions, we'll be giving you our information shortly so you can reach out to us. As well as there's going to be a quick, brief survey at the end of this webinar. Your input and your feedback is super valuable to us, so we get to know what it is that you want to see in future webinars. Also, if you're here for Dr. Perez's class or any class that's giving extra credit, you'll be receiving an email showing your attendance shortly after the webinar, and your attendance will be updated in Panther Connect as well, so that you have that information. So yeah, let's go ahead and just briefly introduce to you. I know some of you may already know who we are from our past webinars or if you've spoken to us, but just in case you don't, a little quick introduction to who we are and what we do. We are your success coach team at FIU Online, and we're here to be an additional layer of support for you within the university. We provide a holistic approach to success. So what we do is we get to know you, get to know what your goals are. We'll ask you different questions, not only to get to know you, but help connect you to resources here at FIU that we really believe you can utilize that you may not even know are available. We discuss key focus areas, tips on balance and wellness, and we also help with goal setting, both academic and professionally. So in case you haven't seen us or know about us, the next slide is going to show the focus areas. Let me go back really quick, trying to skip ahead here. These are the focus areas that we chat with our students about. Some examples are health and support, which we know is really important, finances, career goal and setting, academics, you name it, we'll chat with you and we'll make sure that you set your goals and we support you throughout. And now, if you want to see the faces to the names, here you have your Success Coach team. You have myself, Jackie, Joanna, and Nahum, as well as Sarah. And we will also be joined by 2 future success coaches. As you can see, we handle different programs. So if you haven't spoken to your success coach yet, I definitely recommend that you reach out, whether it's through the emails that we send to you, or even in the chat, we'll send you our general information. Reach out to us, we'll connect you to the success coach that's right for you. And now I would love to introduce one of our 2 online ambassadors. I know that we had a little bit of technical difficulty. Just want to make sure, Amaya, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So I'm going to let Amaya take it away so she can explain a little bit about herself as well as her role as an online student ambassador.
Am I on?
There you go. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Amaya Harrison, and I am an online junior biology major with a graduation year of fall 2024 for a BA in biology. I'm currently in the Graham Center, so if you hear any students walking by or any keys jingling, just disregard it. So some of my current hobbies, I am a Muay Thai kickboxer. I was told in an interview once that I should always lead with that whenever I introduce myself. So I do that now. And I also do have a bearded dragon. I love reptiles. I love gardening. I'm also a guitar player. And yes, I still have a bursting passion for healthcare as well. So I am on a pre-med track as well. I decided to do the online program because it gives me a lot of freedom to volunteer at the clinics I want to volunteer with. I'm currently a medical scribe at Holy Cross Health Hospital in Fort Lauderdale. And I get a lot of time to shadow different doctors, shadow in the OR. I currently work for an orthopedic surgeon as well. So I get to see some wonderful cases and very interesting cases and help patients throughout my time being a student. I also get to travel for different research opportunities for the summer. I'll also be studying and actually taking my physics lecture while I'm in North Carolina for a neuroscience research opportunity that I received as well. And I also get to experience new cultures. So in these 2 pictures, I'm actually in Greece at the Parthenon in the first one. And I guess when I took that picture, I definitely had an emotional breakdown because I missed a midterm. But I was able to recover, so everything is great. I was also able to take my midterm, of course. So there was a lot going on in that beginning part. So I wanted to talk about that in order to lead into our support system. So with the FIU online success coaches, as I've said, there's been many times where I've fallen behind. I can get caught up in a lot of opportunities under this like immense pressure to perform and be the best, even though, of course, you know, not everything's going to be perfect, especially with a high competitive rate for medical schools. So I decided to, you know, connect with my online success coaches, talk to them about my plans, especially for me, procrastination. That's one of my big things. So on that day where I was struggling with this midterm, I said, okay, you know, I have time, not knowing of the time difference, of course, when you're in different areas. I have all this time. And then eventually there was crunch time and I had missed it. So after that time, I connected with one of my success coaches to structure and craft a schedule and a plan so that I'm not always under this immense stress and under this immense pressure. And it allows me to feel very free in my learning and my education. So it's never feeling like, oh, I have midterms. Oh, I'm on, you know, when a lot of students talk, they talk as if they're crazy, like stressed. And so it allows me to really relax and be present and have time for my family, have time to do the things that I love to do, and have time to be a great student as well. In the next 5 years, I do plan on starting residency at one of 4 particular medical schools that I want to apply to. And I'm also considering clinical research and health policy. I do want all of these things to happen, of course, but I know that it takes time to do each of them. So those are like my big 3 for the next 5 years in my future. And that's all for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amaya, so much for sharing your journey and your bearded dragon, who's adorable. I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Ellie, one of our online student ambassadors, so she can talk a little bit about herself and her role.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Can you see me? Am I all in?
You're good.
Perfect. I just wanted to introduce myself as well. Thanks so much, Amaya. So I am Ellie Ferreira. I am a criminal justice major. I'm currently also pursuing a pre-law certification. I do plan on being an attorney in my future, hopefully being able to study at FIU Law. I'm an online student ambassador, and I just got appointed to be our student government online senator. So very exciting. I'm very big on my family. From my pictures, I have a son, I have a husband. I spend a lot of time with my family. They're my entire world. They are my biggest support system throughout everything in school. I love being an online student. I just advocate for the fact that even though you're an online student, you can definitely be as involved as you want to be. I thought that going to school online, I wouldn't be able to be as involved as I currently am, but I'm an ambassador, I'm in student government. It is possible, and it's great making so many different connections, and I've met some amazing people along the way. And that's pretty much it for me. I would love to introduce Dr. Trellis right now, and you can take it away.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for Ellie and for Amaya for sharing a little bit about their story. I always get so excited and passionate when I hear our online students and students in general share a little bit about their journey, because that's the reason why we're here. If it wasn't for you, if it wasn't for your stories and the reason why you show up every day, we wouldn't be here. So it is my pleasure to be able to join you today for this webinar series. I'm really excited to share a little bit about ombudsing. And one of the reasons why is I too went to FIU. I was a transfer student to the university many, many years ago. We're not going to count how many years, because then you start figuring out age. Many years ago, and I had no idea what an ombuds was. And had I known what this resource was, I think I would have been able to solve a lot of my problems. I would have been able to have a great deal more support, and I probably would have been able to graduate a lot quicker. So if you join me today in this presentation, hopefully I'm going to be able to share a little bit about what we do in our office, some resources, and hopefully you'll learn a new word, because ombuds is a very, very funny word to say. If I can have the next slide, please. It's very nice to meet you. So like I said, my name is Dr. Sophia Trellis, and I'm FIU's ombuds person. I'm actually the first female ombuds person that the university has had. This office has existed for many, many years. We first had Dr. Larry Lunsford, who also served as our vice president for student affairs in this role as in the inaugural capacity. Then we had Dr. Tony Delgado be in it, as well as when he was our assistant dean of students. And then I became the first female to be in this role. And I've been here approximately 5 going on to 6 years, and I love it. I know it's very weird to say I really enjoy conflict, because I think of it as an opportunity. But I would also like to share a little bit about myself. So similar to you, I've taken many online classes at FIU. I've done all of my degrees here because it's close to home for me, and it gives me a lot of flexibility to be able to do a lot of the things that I want to do. I'm a mom of 2. I have 2 tiny humans. I have a little boy and a little girl, where somewhere around my house, I'm actually hiding in my closet, which I find that many of you, if you have families, would probably do that as well when you're participating in some classes. So I'm in my closet. I have 2 dogs. I have been at FIU for almost 13, I think maybe 14 years going on, and I love it here. It's an amazing place to work, and it was an amazing place to be able to become educated. And this is the first time I'm actually going to be able to share this, but we just hired someone to join the team. So for the first time in over 17 years, this office is going from an office of 1 to an office of 2. We are being joined by a senior case coordinator who will also be able to meet with all of our students, whether that's in person or virtually, to be able to offer that direct one-on-one support that we know that our FIU students so deserve and need. without any wait time, which is really exciting for me to share. I won't share his name yet because he is not coming on board for another couple weeks. But if you ever need to meet with anybody at our office, now you have two humans that you can definitely connect with. I may have the next slide, please. For today's agenda, we're going to go over a little bit about what the Office of the Ombuds does. Like I mentioned, it's a really weird word. Probably you've never heard of it, but after today, you're going to know a lot about it. We're going to talk about some really great FIU resources. We're going to be talking about asking question, common conflict responses. We're going to go over some facts about our office, and then we're going to talk about a micro-credential opportunity that I would love to share with you because we're making significant changes to it that are definitely going to impact our FIU online community the very best. I may have the next slide, please. So I often play this game. Now, this is a G-rated presentation, so humor me here. We're going to play the Never Have I Ever Ombuds edition. If I may have the next slide. So if you can either raise your hand, or I know that oftentimes we have in the chat options, like you can put little emojis. So if you can give me a thumbs up, if you've actually heard of the word Ombuds or knew that FIU had an Ombuds. I can't see it, but it's okay because I'm going to pretend like a lot of you are raising your hands. So the word Ombuds actually stands for the word neutrality. It's someone who is here to help you throughout a problem. I often tell students that I'm not here to fix your problem. I am a recovering fixer. I'm not here to fix your problem, but I'm here to work alongside you so that in the most authentic and genuine way, you can resolve your problems. So people come to our office because they want to know their options. We're a really large university, 57,000 plus students, over 10,000 employees. It's so easy to get lost. And the best part about being an FIU online student is you have so many resources. You've met your wonderful team, and I'm just an added bonus into that. So people come to me to ask questions and to obtain guidance. We're also the only place at FIU where you can get mediation services free of charge that does not go on any academic record. So it's a safe place to address any conflict that you may have. And you ask for assistance. Oftentimes, what I am so excited about in our role is that we can connect students with other resources at FIU that you may not be aware exist or how to connect with them. And essentially, we help students connect. Now, we do a lot of things from role-playing, facilitated dialogue, we do shuttle diplomacy, we do conflict coaching, regular coaching. We're really here to help you understand why conflict is occurring and then how to deal with it in a way that you feel the most comfortable. And another thing is talking to me does not put FIU on notice. Oftentimes students come to me and they're going to be like, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell that person everything that happens, but we're actually confidential. So by talking to me, you're just talking to a friend and we're going to work together on solving some of those problems, but it doesn't put FIU on notice. So it's a safe place to really share your thoughts and share what's going on without the fear that something that you share with me is going to be used against you. We also do a lot of academic integrity support as well as procedural advising if you've ever have to go through any of that. If I may please have the next slide. So a lot of students haven't worked with us. We actually see approximately 1% of our student population, but also keep in mind that we're an office of one, so that actually is a significant number. But we are informal, we are confidential, we are neutral, and we are independent. So how can we be informal and neutral at the same time? Well, we're informal in the sense that we don't belong. Our office does not belong to any formal process. Talking to us does not start any process either. We are simply having a conversation. And oftentimes in having those conversations, we're able to understand what's really important to us, what's going on, and how we can solve it. One of my favorite things about talking to students is that the way that they think and the way that they solve problems is so different from every single person. And it is really outside of that box. And that is exactly what you need when you're dealing with conflict, because no matter if you are across the street, if you are at your job with a significant other, with a friend, a family member, the person who cut you off on the street while you were driving, no matter what, we're always going to run into conflict. So knowing that there's a place that can help you when you run into conflict is really comforting to me. And we are neutral in the sense that it's actually my job to tell FIU when we do things wrong. So I don't pick sides. I'm not for the student or for the university. I'm here to help you figure out the best way to solve your problems, and we're doing that together. And if there is a way that FIU can improve, if there is a way that FIU can change something because it needs to be changed, I'm happy to help in that process. And that's exactly what I'm here for. And I'm independent in the sense that I don't truthfully belong to any one particular unit in the division or at the university. Right now, we're housed within the Division of Academic and Student Affairs, and it's a wonderful, accessible place to be in. But we don't necessarily belong to one particular office or department. So we're not attached to that office or that department's procedures or policies. We serve the entire university, whether that is our undergrad, our graduate, our professional schools, or our online programs. We provide services to all of our students equally. Next, please. So ombudsing is a really weird word. And I often tell people ombudsing is really about gaps. It's about creating opportunities to fix things or to create gaps or opportunities to change things. So we often think of gaps as something that is negative or something that is positive. And keep this in mind because we're going to come back to it at the end of the PowerPoint presentation as to how we bring it all together. But ombudsing is helping you identify where those gaps need to be so that we can create change, or we can have different perspectives as to how we may approach situations so that we can feel comfortable. Because I don't know about you, but this happens to me all the time. I'm in situations where I wish I would have spoken up for myself, where I wish I could have said something. And then I have these shower conversations with myself where I'm like, as I'm shampooing my hair, like, man, I can't believe I didn't say that, or I can't believe I didn't share my thoughts. And I tell myself, next time I'm going to do better. That's my gap. That's my opportunity on a personal level. But we have these opportunities for ourselves all the time. Sometimes we just need a little help figuring out what they are. Next, please. So what does an ombuds really do, and how can they help you and the university? Well, for a student, we do conflict coaching, and that's where you're getting that one-on-one detailed relationship building, figuring out what's important to you, why things bother you, how they bother you, and how you want to approach it. So it's definitely not a Dr. Trellis run process. We're going to be working on these two together. Policy clarification. Sometimes the university might have a policy or a procedure that you simply do not understand or do not like. And understanding or having more information presented to you as to why the university is doing certain things, how it's applicable to me, oftentimes is all that we may need in order to be able to come up with other options for ourselves and other alternatives that we can approach. We offer mediation, we do active listening, we explore and evaluate possible options available for every single situation, so that I don't get to make the decision, you get to make the decision, and you don't also have to tell me any of your choices. We provide referrals, we do facilitated dialogue and shuttle diplomacy. These two are critical to the role of the ombuds. They are helping people have conversations when they are in conflict. So when you facilitate dialogue, you are essentially having individual conversations with two people and then bringing them together and helping them have that hard conversation. While with shuttle diplomacy, it's almost like playing a game of telephone. You're going to help the person have these conversations, but sometimes the student or the visitor can't make the initial conversation bit. So you're going to step in and you're going to help them. We also informally research the basis of your complaints, because talking to me doesn't put FIU on notice, but it does allow me to create trends, which is why I like to say that the Office of the Ombuds at FIU is FIU's informal early alert system. It is my job on a semester basis to tell FIU if I am noticing trends so that we may correct them. I look at the data and then I create analysis for them. And I talk to whether it is our provost, our president, our interim vice president for student affairs. And I can recommend policy changes to the university, as well as procedures that are outdated, unclear, or no longer work, because life changes. We have to evolve and adapt. And that's really great. We also do a lot of handbook reviews in order to ensure that what our students are experiencing is actually what the department or the university really wants to occur. I may have the next slide. This one is the one that I know they're going to send to you. But if you happen to have your cell phone out or you're watching this on your computer, take a screenshot of this. This is really important because I want you to know the different ways for you to report things at the university. Oftentimes, it might not happen to you, but it might happen to someone that you know of, and you want to make sure that you have access to the best information to share. You want to be that good friend. So we have different ways of filing a complaint at the university. We have our academic grievance, which has formal and informal process. So this is where we hold our faculty, our employees, our departments accountable for things like arbitrary or capricious awarding of grades. I call this the Oprah grading system, where everybody goes like, you get an A, you get a B, you get a C, or they are like, this feels like an A. So if that happens to you, which I hope never does, I want you to know that you have an opportunity to be able to file a grievance. You have myself and my new member of my team. Then you have the state university system and you have accrediting bodies, which you can always call them and use their systems. But the two ones that I really want to spend some time with here are our report.fiu.edu website. And the reason is if you have if you see something of bias, a Title IX issue, discrimination, if you see anything there that at the university that you feel you need to report, you can go to report.fiu.edu and you can report it. You can either be anonymous or you can share your information. If you see something and it doesn't happen to you, you can also report it. This allows us as a university to collect information so that we may make better decisions. Because if no one reports it, unfortunately, we're going to be stuck and we're not going to be able to help. Now, the thing about the reporting feature is that you can actually put a phone number for them to contact you at while still maintaining anonymity. And that's important because sometimes in those reports, we leave out critical information that might be able to help us move forward. Now, I am not a reporting party at the university in that sense, and I don't investigate, but there are so many folks at the institution that do, and we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success if they do have to investigate. And then we have our ethical Panther line. And if compliance hears me calling it the Amazon or the FedEx tracking system, they'll probably laugh at me, but that's exactly how I often tell students that it is. So if you've ever bought anything online, whether that's through Amazon or you use FedEx or you use any delivery system that you get a code and you track it, that's pretty much what our ethical Panther line does. So you can either call or you can file a complaint online. And what they'll do is that they'll give you a code and you can utilize that code to call back or to check in where the status is. So depending on the nature of your concern or your complaint or your file, they will send it to different folks at the university so that they can initiate their process. Now, the Ethical Panther line is not run by FIU. We pay for it, but it is a third party that does it. So we're not getting those. So they have to filter them to us first, which is really great. And you can also not share your information. So there's no way for FIU to know any information about you, the person that is reporting it, unless you give them that. So it's another really wonderful way of being able to voice your concern and to share your unique experiences, because we need to hear them. If there is something wrong, let's fix it. Let's work together on that. If I may have the next slide. So I wanted to share the feel wheel, and I wanted to share what emotions feel like. And the reason for this is oftentimes when students or visitors come into my office and they're experiencing a problem, we often use words like, I'm angry, or I'm really upset. But what does that look like? What does anger look like? Every single person here is going to describe it differently, is going to be able to share different situations. And I'll give you an example of my son. And now we're getting a little bit personal, but it's okay because we're all friends and I trust you. So my son last night was really upset. My in-laws had purchased for my daughter some rain boots on Amazon, and he was really angry because he didn't get something. They're at that age where if one gets something, magically the other one should also get something right away. And he was really frustrated. He had these really big emotions. but he's 6, doesn't know really how to communicate that to me. But I saw a lot of these things. So this is a great opportunity to use something like the feel wheel, because he can tell me I'm angry, but what does that really look like? So with the feel wheel, you have 2 options. You can either start at the center with feelings like anger, or you can start at the outside. So for my son, he says, I'm angry, and I can see that. But what else am I seeing? Well, I noticed that he was clenching his hands by his side. He was tightening his jaw. He was scowling. He was using very loud words, and he was very loud at me. So now I can start figuring out what real emotions was it. Was he actually angry, or was he aggressive? Was he insecure? Was he hurt? And these are really great because feelings are super difficult. And unfortunately, in today's society, we use things like anger, happy, sad, surprise, but there are so many better words for how we actually feel and what we can do. And when a student comes to me to tell me I'm angry, I don't know what that means. So sometimes we're going to have to pull out this emotions, this feel wheel, and talk about, okay, but what does that really look like? And I often use this when a student has conflict with someone else and they're concerned about how to approach the situation and whether or not it's safe to approach the situation. I have been in so many conversations with my friends where they have had really big feelings, and so have I. And I've said things that hurt them. And sometimes I do it on purpose because I'm angry or I'm upset. And I know that that's part of my process. But by using the feel wheel, you're able to better identify and make educated decisions as to what your feelings are, and you're going to be able to figure out how to approach it. I don't expect us to be able to fully understand and grasp what the feel wheel is. I wanted you to be exposed to a resource that's really wonderful and is used in a lot of therapy sessions and a lot of therapy and clinical settings because it works. It allows us to identify how we feel and recognize how emotions are not only internal, but they also can be represented externally. And for students, that is so critical to you because it's going to impact you academically. If you're upset, if you are so angry that you can't turn in an assignment and now you're going to have a poor grade in the class, that's negatively impacting you. And you carry that because I don't know about you, but I don't actually leave my feelings when I walk through a door. I'm a human, I'm a person. And what that means, I have emotions and I have another life that I'm going to be carrying with me all the time. So it's really wonderful if you get to know yourself and you're able to identify those in you so that you can easily identify those in other folks. And I can have the next slide, please. So how do we use the feel wheel when we're in a situation that's difficult? Well, we use the acronym ORS, which is we're going to ask really good questions. I had a graduate assistant that says there are no dumb or good questions, but there are better questions that we can ask. And the reason is if we ask questions that are closed-ended, we're only going to get yes and no's, and it's not going to go anywhere. We want to ask those really big open-ended questions where people are allowed to pause, where you're going to give them an opportunity to catch up with their thoughts and their feelings in order to be able to answer you. Because by pausing, you're going to allow them an opportunity to really evaluate the situation and to put into words what's occurring, what's important to them. At the same time, you want to make sure that you're affirming what you're hearing. And this is part of the reflective listening. And the reason why we do this is oftentimes, you and I do this all the time, I guarantee you, our minds are going thousands of miles per minute. And we oftentimes will answer questions or fill in the gaps for this other person with our own identity, with our own experience, without allowing this other person to be authentic. Because we know what happened. It happened to my cousin last week. It happened to my best friend. I know exactly how to solve your problem, but that's not true to that other person. And we do that because we're not really listening. We are not driving action. We're not pausing for this other person to be able to catch up to what's occurring. So by asking open-ended questions, by reflective listening, by saying, this is what I heard you say. Is that right? Or my favorite, which is, I don't understand what you just said. Do you think that you can share it again in a different way? Those questions and those statements drive actions, because when you're dealing with conflict, you're going to have a variety. I often like to say that you can kind of fit into two, right? You're going to fit into the folks that just need to talk about it, right? To just like have you listen without driving action. They just want you to be a good friend and listen to what's happening. And then you have the other group, which is going to want to have action driven. So you want to be able to solve a situation. So depending on which group you're dealing with or you're in, right? Because depending on who we're talking with, we might want your best friend to just listen to you, or we want our best friend to be able to solve the problem. You'll be able to do that. And lastly, you always want to summarize. It's super important for the other person to feel as if you heard them. And the reason why I say that is, try to think about when was the last time that you were the most important person in a room, and that the person that you were speaking to was hanging to every single word that came out of your mouth. There was nothing else that was going on. Not the cell phone, not the TV, not the children, not the dog, not the job, not their own problems. You were the most important person in that room. It doesn't happen that often, but we strive ourselves in the Office of the Ombuds to do that for every single person that we interact with, because we know that a problem is not just on the surface. If you found your way to our office, you are going through something and you need support. And that is what our office is here for, to make sure that we're creating spaces where you can share these concerns, where you can share what's occurring. And we're going to really try to figure out how it's impacting you, but also how to solve the problem if we can do it together. May I have the next slide, please? So these are some common responses to conflict. Similar to those quizzes that you might find on the internet, I want you to pick which one you are in your mind, because this does change depending on who you're having conflict with, as well as the type of conflict that you're having. So if I may have the first one. So this is where I believe most of our students fall under: avoidance. And this is, you do not like conflict. If conflict happens, you pretend like it did not. You walk out, you ignore it. And this is a really great option. I know, I just said it. If you have conflict, you can't ignore it. If it's not really important, if it's temporary. So when a problem is small and it's likely to go away, the problem with ignoring, and we all know this, is the fact that sometimes it's going to come back because we've already told the person that it's not important by our actions. So you have to be careful. This is a temporary fix, but there is a time and a place for you to avoid. And that's also if you know that the person that you're having conflict with, or that your friends are having conflict with, is not receptive, is not willing to engage in having an opportunity to solve conflict. So keep that in mind. May I have the next slide, please? Then we have accommodations or harmonizing. And this is where one person is willing to sacrifice their own preferred outcome to ensure that no harm to the relationship occurs. This is really great if it's a low power situation, but it's not good for as a consistent response. You don't want to feel like you're being taken advantage of, or as if you're giving up something that's important to you, but it allows for a reasonable give and take and builds goodwill. So I often like to share that this is when people are deciding what food to order or who takes what part of a group project. Like, fine. I don't want to do the conclusion. I really wanted to do the introduction, but I'll take one for the team type of situation. This is also when you are willing to let your best friend or your group of friends decide where you're going to go out on Friday or Saturday, or the name of the restaurant that you want to go to instead of where you want to go, because you're willing to kind of keep the peace for the majority of the people. So most students will fit into the first two options. May I have the next slide? Then we have collaboration. And this is when you're pooling of individual needs and goals towards a common goal. This happens oftentimes in group projects as well as in the workplace. So it's when you want people to agree to make a decision together. You need buy-in. This is a great leadership tool when supervisors ask folks for input. So if we are buying new furniture for an office, well, show me what you like. Or if we're going to take on a new project, what projects do people like in order to do? This also works in the classroom setting. When a professor tells you, okay, what are your interests? So that they can tailor the syllabus towards what the class is actually doing, or when they're allowing people to select the themes for a presentation. But this is not a good option when the decision isn't as important and you're short in time. So if, for example, we have a meeting next hour, I'm not going to send a mass text to everyone saying, hey, where do you all want to meet, and start like tallying everybody's responses. This creates supportive environments for people to fully express themselves and acknowledge their worth. So a personal example that I have for when collaboration doesn't work is if you're hosting a Friendsgiving or you're hosting Thanksgiving or any of those type of holidays, and you're texting people for dates, and you're a large group, and you're like, okay, what date between October and the first week of the first week of December works for you all? Not a good idea. You're going to drive yourself a little bit bonkers, and it's not going to work out. May I have the next slide? Compromise. This is the one where all of our parents and our guardians and those parental figures in our life, if we had them, told us to do. They're like, compromising is the way to go. And I am here to tell you that compromising sells a piece of your soul. So it involves a trade-off between two positions. It is when a problem is not highly important, time to discuss is short, but this doesn't work when it's something that's really important to you. So we oftentimes will say like, I'm going to compromise and I'll give you this or that. This is also when we hear in like in divorce courts, or when we hear them in TV shows, or even if you're purchasing a house or a car recently, or even if you've ever gone to like a flea market and you're trying to buy something, so you're going to haggle. It does oftentimes encourage people to start really high because you know that you're going to be able to drive things down. But when it doesn't come to a financial situation and you're talking about problems, oftentimes both parties will be dissatisfied because you're compromising to come to a conclusion, but you've given up something really important to yourself in order to be able to solve something. So compromise isn't always my preference. I like more of the accommodating part and harmonizing because it allows people to have better conversations. May I have the next slide, please? And then we have competing, and we all have at least one person in our life that competes. I will share, it is my father. And this person needs to be right at every situation. It is your position is the only acceptable option. And the only downside to this one that I'm going to share with you right now is the fact that it doesn't work when you care about the person, because you have to be willing to hurt that other person or willing to sacrifice that relationship if you are competing. With that being said, you have to compete if it comes against your values. So if what you are arguing is about value driven, it's driven by your values, you will compete because there is no alternative for you. You want to be right and you need to be right because you are right based off of your values. And I'm not here to tell you that you need to argue your values. May I have the next slide, please? So this is what I was saying about ombudsing. Ombudsing creates gaps. It creates opportunities for people to really speak. It creates opportunities to identify challenges, whether the challenge is, I failed a class and I need to know how to solve it. Well, okay, let's create some space. What does that look like for you so that you can graduate on time? But it also creates good spaces in the sense that if you've identified opportunities for growth for yourself, for others, this is exactly where it occurs. If I may have the next slide. And this is what I was talking about. You have your opportunity gaps and your challenges gaps. And it's important to know that it's all about perspective. Opportunities and challenge gaps are one and the same. It's just how we are going to approach them. And that's one of the great things about having these conversations in the Ombuds office is that we can start at a challenge gap and slowly move it to an opportunity gap together. May I have the next slide? One more. So on to the facts. I often like to share a little bit about our office because Once you know that we exist, well, how do we help folks? So I'm trying to share with you the last 3 years in our office, and I divide this based off of concerns. So they can either fall under academic or administrative concerns. So we have everything from, in 2020, you can see on the screen that we helped 1,275 students who have had some form of concern, conflict, or situation where they needed the Ombuds office. And that can range from anything from academic dismissal to policy or procedural reviews. This is the year that the pandemic occurred at the university, and we went fully remote, and we had a lot of transitions happen, and students needed that support system. Then as we move forward, you're going to realize that we still have a bulk of it is going to be policy and procedural. It's going to be institutional complaints. It's going to be academic, student conduct and academic integrity concerns. And then we're going to have grievances and course or programs concerns. So making sure that you're able to be successful in the class. The vast majority of our appointments are for our female. So right now we're at the 43 I think it's 43% of our visitors happen to identify as female. And we do look at Pell Grant eligibility as well, and making sure that we're retaining our students. Because if you run into a problem, the last thing that I want is for you to feel alone. That's not what I want. So I am so excited when I learned that the students that I help that visit our office are able to be retained and are able to finish out their degrees. And this information, of course, is with their consent. May I have the next slide? So this is an opportunity that I wanted to share with you all. Last year, we realized in the office that as a party of one and with a grad assistant at that moment, I was limited with the ability of being able to provide support directly to all of our students all at the same time. It's impossible. There's so many of you and only one of me. So we realized that in order to be more effective and to be efficient, we created something called Fun Conflict, which is a proactive ombudsing approach through a micro-credential. So we were very fortunate that the Office of Micro-Credential offered us this opportunity, and we created a badge. It's called the Fundamental Conflict Management Techniques for Students badge, but for short, we call it Fun Conflict. And this is a free micro-credential to our students. As long as you're enrolled at the university, it will be free to you. And we have it both in person and online, and we are actually changing it as we speak so that during the summer, we can launch it at fully online, but at your own pace. Because how we were doing it beforehand was online, but we were providing the lessons through Zoom. So we are making some changes so that you can join in and you can participate and use these proactive approaches. We're going to realize how to think critically, problem solve, collaborate, communicate effectively, and listen actively when experiencing conflict. And the best part of this is that this is created specifically for FIU students. I have taken some of the cases with modifications over the past 5 years that I've been doing this role and have used those specific cases as scenarios with those modifications, because the opportunities that I have been able to find educationally online and in other settings don't use cases that are really relatable to the way that we do things at FIU or the experiences of our students. And that was important to me. I want to teach conflict management in a way where our students recognize that they could happen to them and that these are techniques that could be used by them. So if you're interested in this, it is available on our website. If you just go to ombuds.fiu.edu or a quick Google of Ombuds FIU will lead you to the same page. You can always reach out directly to me. I will work with you in any capacity that you want. And if you're interested in this, I'm happy to enroll you when it is available in that capacity, or you're all invited to take this course either in person or online. The choice is yours. And I believe we have one more slide. And this is how you can contact us. It's ombuds@fiu.edu. Ombuds.fiu.edu is our website, and we are located in the Graham Center in the main campus at MMC in room 219. So you do have to take the stairs or the elevator to the second floor. But this is just our physical location. Because of technology, we're able to meet with students anywhere, whether that is at a different campus, whether that is on our online platform, or whether you're on campus and you happen to not want to go into an office, let me know. Happy to walk around campus with you if that is your preference. And I think that may bring us to the end of my portion of the PowerPoint.
Dr. Trellis, thank you so much. I'm going to give you a very big thank you after this, but I believe Ellie has some questions for you. So Ellie, if you want to take it away.
Yes, thank you so much for that presentation. I actually learned so much. I did not know a lot of that information there, so I'm super excited that I was able to learn a lot about our Ombuds. But some of the questions that we have here is, when should I contact the Ombuds office?
Great question, Ellie. Thank you so much for that. Well, you can contact us whenever you want, but most students will contact us either at the very beginning of a conflict, where in their gut, they know that something is going on, but don't know where to start, or even if they should start. So a lot of times we'll have those initial conversations to try to figure out what's the next best step for them. Or at the end, where you have tried everything that you know possible, right? You've emailed that professor, you've gone to those office hours, you've talked to the department, you've done everything that you know possible as a student, and you're still not getting an answer. And we oftentimes say, like, it's through our traditional channels of communication and you're still not being able to resolve something, visit us. I will say being told no is an answer. It's just not one I know anybody to enjoy. So we'll work on that as well. But really, it's whenever you need me, you can contact me. But most of the time, students will visit either at the very beginning of a conflict or at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Next, I'd like to ask, does the Ombuds office offer any mediation services? And what does that entail?
Yeah, so we do. We're actually the only place at the university that offers this for our students. It's really great because we create a really safe space. The best part about mediation is that it's both online and in person. So we try to accommodate students. I'm actually trained as a Florida Supreme Court County mediator. So I do have that, and I'm working on other mediation certifications as well. So we do have those resources. And mediation is when you help two people who are having a conflict figure it out themselves without really getting too involved. So you're helping people have those conversations where they will come to a resolution, whatever that may be. But oftentimes I find that just having an extra person in there makes people want to work a little bit more together.
That's awesome. And I know you said that it is available for all of our online students, but me being a fully online student, do I have to come to campus at all to access any Ombuds services?
No, you don't. All you have to do is either email ombuds@fiu.edu, and you're going to get an automated reply from us telling you a phone number to call in order to schedule your appointment. And all I need is for you to make an appointment, and that's it. Our appointments are through Zoom. We do limit it sometimes to phones just because you're not able to really get that really one-on-one connection like how we're having right now. It's oftentimes a little bit hard to do that if you're doing it over the phone, but I understand. If you're working, if you have your life, like, we'll figure it out together. I've actually worked with a lot of online students who are not even within the United States, so they have a different time zone. So we accommodate to the needs of our students.
That's perfect. That's good to know. And what other Ombuds services are available to our online students besides mediation?
So all of our services, whether you need a conflict coach, whether you need to do role-playing shuttle dialogue or facilitated dialogue. So if you're having a hard time with a faculty member and you need someone to help you have that conversation or to start the conversation for you after we have that, we can definitely do that. All of our services are exclusively for all of our students. So it does not matter that you are fully online or fully in person. The service will accommodate where you are and where you need to be, because we have online students that want to come to campus if they happen to be around because they want to experience something on property, and they'll meet with me, and that's wonderful. And then I have fully in-person students that want to meet online because they work and that's their reality. So we are available to our students where they need it the most.
Perfect. That was so helpful. Thank you so much, Dr. Trellis.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're gonna keep it open just for a few more minutes in case anybody wants to ask any questions in the Q&A. And while you're all doing that, I want to thank Maya and Ellie. Thank you so much for being online student ambassadors, representing your peers, and being with us today. Dr. Trellis, your information was invaluable. I can say it from someone who's been in the university for a long time. I'm taking things away that I can take on a day-to-day basis in my life. Like when you said your example of your father, I yelled in this office at my husband. So I feel you. So while we're waiting here, if anybody has any questions, go ahead. Also, don't forget, please fill out the survey if you can. It's very quick, short and sweet, and we just want to get your feedback on not only today's webinar, but potential future webinars and see what you'd like to hear. We got a couple thank yous.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love having an opportunity to share a little bit about our office, but I enjoy much more getting to learn all about you and the services that you all provide.
All right, so here is our information. If anybody wants to reach us, after, we're going to go ahead and call it a night, but you have our email, our phone number, and if you'd like to text us. Thank you again, everyone, so much for participating, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Bye, everyone.